It all started now. This day's a turning point in my life. The day I begin living my life from the inside out. And I am transformed. I am transformed.
Hello everyone, my name is Maria Mirkovich and I'm your host for Family Today. This show is for families, it's for parents, grandparents, and young adults. It includes art, culture, entertainment, and spirituality. A lot of families in this day and age are going through a lot of transaction. The family unit is not the same. There's a lot of breaks in relationship, especially marriage, so the family goes disarray. How many of you would like to be guided by this? When you go through these times of challenges, how many of you would like to be guided? And how many of you would like to be guided by a professional divorce coach? Here with me today, I have a guest. Her name is Jackie Atchison, and here she is. Welcome today. Welcome,
Maria,
Jackie.
thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the family today. And I am so excited to have you. This is a new thing that I hear with the divorce coaches, because people do need your services a lot. It's needed.
Oh, it certainly is.
Tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you to this path.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Really important.
You're welcome.
Certified divorce coaches are pretty much a new generation with a specialty in coaches. Different than a life coach without a specialty. It's sort of like looking at your primary care physician who happens to also be an oncologist or a sleep professional, anything along those lines. So a life coach really has to have training in divorce. And I was a divorce mediator in the 90s as well.
So that's
when
awesome.
There was, nobody wanted a divorce mediator. So how did I start? I was a young girl, fell in love like everyone else, got married to a man who was 10 years older than me with 2 children. Yes,
Okay.
that's a whole other chapter.
Okay.
But so here I am, I'm getting married. I know he's divorced, but he had told me that his ex-wife and children were nowhere to be found. So I'm young, naive, I believe the story.
Sure.
And he missed his children terribly. I always wanted to be a mother. So shy of 2 years, I have this beautiful little girl for myself, and thinking, oh, I've now given the man I love a child. He does not know where his other 2 children are. And 2 months later, and I am now the ripe old age of 23, I get this phone call that goes, hello, Mrs. Schwartz. This is the other Mrs. Schwartz.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Never dawned on me, like, how did she find my phone number if my husband couldn't find her and the children? All I know is this is what happened. The phone call basically is, we are on the West Coast. I am living with this man. Please have Bob call me. And either he is going to start to take care of his children and start to see them, or my new soon-to-be husband is going to adopt them.
So how did you feel? Were you astounded? Were you shocked?
Shocked.
Traumatized?
Traumatized, shocked. But I just knew one thing, is that he had a call, and he had to take care of his children. He had to get on a plane. They were 6 and 4. They were little girls. Bring them here and start to be a dad. So not knowing what had gone on with this family or what brought them there. Of course, later I did get divorced 23 years later. So, you know, I did find out many things and realize that he was probably at fault. But at the time, being young and in love, I still wanted to believe him. And I watched how these 2 parents from East Coast to West Coast totally destroyed these children. I was in shock.
It happens,
I
yes.
could not believe the things I was watching, observing, couldn't be a part of. And I said, I always knew there had to be a better way. And that was my journey. Unfortunately, I had to work. I was not a lawyer, so I could not become a family lawyer. But when the opportunity presented itself to me, probably about 15, 16 years later, when I lived in the boroughs of New York, there was a community dispute resolution center which provided training in mediation. And that's
so
where
you're
I
a
started.
mediator.
I am a mediator,
Oh my
divorce
God.
mediator. I worked in the courts, which was even harder, in family court, custody visitation. I was intake for family court and had to go 3 days to Albany to become the expert on domestic violence.
So this is very helpful towards your divorce coaching, because you know something about the law.
I know, yes, I
Something.
cannot advise. As a divorce
Sure.
coach, I can't advise, but if we can look it up on the internet,
Yes.
very different than in the mid-90s when I was a divorce mediator. The internet is a great tool.
Sure.
So I can have a conversation based on information on the internet with my client and work accordingly without giving advice, but asking them the questions that elicit the responses that will work for them based on the piece of the law that we read on the internet. But that's just this much of it.
But you work on a person's, you do men.
I do
too.
men and women, yes.
And women.
Oh, yes.
You work on their emotional intelligence.
Big time.
Yes.
See, that's the piece that's very interesting. The lawyers really, for the most part, really only want to do the law. They want to write the briefs, the depositions, anything required to go in front of the judge, the
They're not
stipulations.
there for you emotionally. Oh,
They don't-
some might be, some lawyers might be, but not as
They are,
you
but
would.
they don't want to be.
They don't want to be. They don't have time.
And clients in the Bergen, Hudson County area, Essex, where we are, Morris, the lawyers charge usually between $400 and $500 an hour. And they don't want to have you calling them 20 times a day.
That's where you come in.
I come in
Yes.
as a divorce coach with a background. Again, I'm a
Yes.
mediator, which
Yes.
was what enabled me to become a certified divorce coach. There is school for that and trainings accordingly, which a lot of other people don't have. And it's first becoming recognized. Actually, the American Bar Association now has divorce coaches in there as an alternative dispute resolution method and mechanism for people going
I
through
firmly
divorce.
believe in certification.
Oh,
I
yes.
am certified as a life coach for families.
Yes.
And pretty soon I'm going to do the alienation of kids, because kids, as you said, they suffer.
Oh, yeah.
They suffer tremendously. They suffer anyway when they hear mom and dad yelling and,
Oh, yes.
hurting each other. And then on automatic, they learn all of that and they start internalize it and then try to make it better for the parents. So later on in life, as they reach adulthood, they also want to fix and things. And that's where the codependency issue comes in,
Yeah,
right?
that's part of the codependency.
Yes,
It's also
yes.
intergenerational. It's,
Yeah, oh,
it's sort
yes.
of inside of them because it's genetic. You
Yes.
pick up these things through birth and your parents, and then couple it with the environment. See, now, when people come to me, they can come to me at the beginning when they're still deciding, should I or shouldn't I? And I
Oh.
never advocate divorce, but I work on a parallel system with them where the first thing is I try to untrain the part of their brain that has
good.
become accustomed to fight, flight, or freeze,
Or
which is the
freeze.
amygdala, the piece
Yes,
that
of course, in the brain.
the emotion
Yes.
that totally takes over, the adrenaline, the surge, the anger, the whole thing. So they're sad, they're angry, and they can feel that. But if they're going to try to either save their marriage or move on to a better place, they have to retrain themselves to remember
Yes.
who they were before all this intense emotion set in, and how to learn how to rephrase, how to communicate differently.
So, in other words, you also could fix their marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Not that you will do it, but you will let them,
Give them
you
the
will
tools.
target them to do it,
Yeah.
right? And to give them the tools that are needed for their communication. And what else would you say?
We do role plays.
Role playing? Oh, wow.
A lot of role plays,
Mirroring?
exercise,
Yes.
mirroring. Yeah, making believe one of us is the other spouse, how you
Yeah.
would have the conversation. And then all of a sudden when they have it, I watch their face and they hear it differently. And they go, all right, can we
Yeah.
try this again? Because that really is the goal if you want your marriage to work. But at the same time, like, let's say I'm working with a woman whose husband typically, and I use the word typically,
Yes.
is the one in charge of the finances. And a lot of times the women don't even want to know it. That's another thing they need to learn. So we work on getting tax returns, looking at credit reports, knowing what's going on.
So you teach them all of that?
I teach them
because
all of that.
there's way too many people, too many women that say that, what you just said, they don't look at the financial side of marriage. And a lot of them stay because of that.
Yes.
You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
yeah.
like to empower women. So if
Yeah.
they stay in the marriage, they've now learned how to communicate
I like that
better.
word, empowerment.
And they learn the finances. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, unless the husband is a real control freak, well, it happens. But
It's
they
true.
almost feel better knowing somebody's coming and helping them because
Yes.
it's typical male role to feel it's like they're the hunter. They go out and bring home the bacon. We fry it up in the pan, you know.
I like what you said the other day about my Greek wedding, my fat
Oh
Greek
my
wedding.
God, the women, yeah.
And the women's role is the men, something about the neck.
Right. In my big fat Greek wedding, what
Yeah.
women, if they learn how to communicate more efficiently, this
Yeah.
is the perfect example, is that the men are the heads, but the women are the neck. And if they learn how to efficiently, in the right way, learn how to turn it, they can get a lot more of what they're
Oh,
looking
that's
for.
so cool.
Men do want to please their women.
They
but
do.
They do. If they love a woman, they want to please a woman. And in these marriages that are going south and not going well, it's interesting because it's unless there's an affair, it's typically 80% of the women that ask for the divorce.
Oh my God, I'm
Yes,
surprised about
it's a
that.
big number.
Wow.
The women are the ones that are not happy.
Mm-hmm.
The men are not happy because the wife is not happy
Got
because they
it.
want to please her. So it's a very interesting dynamic.
So if a man has an affair, he would not even join to a group to heal the marriage.
You know
Or a
what?
woman if
It-
she's also in an
It
affair.
really depends on the individual.
It does.
Affairs can be mended in marriages if both parties really want it
Mm-hmm.
badly enough. I've seen that happen. And but that's if the marriage is a good marriage and there's stuff that
Mm-hmm.
brought one spouse to go outside the marriage. Then there are times where that's the thing that breaks the marriage. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
like it's been a crappy marriage all along, and so this shows you how low my self-esteem is. Like, what am I doing here? And that could be the wake-up call too. So
Yes.
it really depends. Yeah.
It does depend.
Yeah.
Mhm. So you help a lot of people. Oh my
Yeah.
God, Jackie, I'm so proud of you.
Thank
so
you,
what
thank
else
you.
do the couples go through, especially men now?
Okay, speaking about men.
Yes, men.
Dealing with men.
Yes.
Men, again, I'm speaking typically.
Typically.
There's no 100% rule on any of this. I had a man, a couple of men, but when there's children involved, and there are these hardworking men who are gone from what, 7 in the morning till 8, 9 o'clock
Yes.
at night, and their wife will say, we're going Saturday here with the kids. We're going Tuesday night having dinner out here with the kids. Well, now they're thrust into a situation where they have to be the mothers while they're
Right.
with the children. There is no backup plan. It's them. They don't know what to do. So as an example, I had a man come to me and go, we're having so many problems. And it was really bad. There was drinking involved. There was restraining orders. There had to be a nanny or somebody present, a supervised visit. So they would go out to dinner. And supposedly his version of the story is that the ex-wife was talking badly and the kids were picking up on it and they didn't want to be with him, but the court mandated it. It was an ugly, ugly trial
Ugly.
situation.
Do they ever bring you to court? Just to
I am
explain
bound by
situations?
confidentiality, so there's not, and I
Oh,
don't
okay,
take
okay.
notes. I
Got
don't
it.
even take notes.
You don't take notes, okay.
No, I do not
No, I
take
thought there
notes.
was a place for you to be in the court with them to...
I go to the
okay.
attorney's offices with them if they want me to, but I don't
So
go.
that's
I
a
don't
good thing too,
And most
yes.
cases don't end up in court. Less than
And
5%.
your husband is a lawyer, isn't he?
He is, but he does not do family, and
Got
he
it.
would never touch this topic with a 10-foot
Yes,
pole.
yes, yes,
It's
yes,
too
yes.
personal.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But
have
I'm
to know
just
how to deal
saying
with it.
because in a lawful way and you're being with your husband, you even learn more about law,
Oh, yeah.
which is excellent.
It is.
I think the more you have, the more power you have,
Yes.
the more you have to give.
I have a good resource.
You do have a good resource.
Yes.
That's definitely true.
And he can
yes.
get me information. Again,
Sure.
not that I can advise, but just
Yes.
for myself, so I can ask the client the right question.
Mm-hmm.
So even they can take that question and go to the attorney. So they get the right information. I won't give them that information if I
So-
can't find it.
So Jackie, what if the people at hand they want a divorce? They truly want it. They say it's over. That's it. It cannot be any compensation or fixing it in any way. What if they don't have the money to do it? Because you
through
do
the
require
divorce.
a lot of money. Yes.
Well, I definitely require money.
Yeah.
A lot less than an attorney. That's why a lot of people would come to me, like rant and rave to me.
Yes.
Have your hit, have your fit, have your anger, have your crying session, have your moment. I allow that, and then we move forward. That's the difference between therapy and coaching. Coaching, as you know, as a life coach, is very
Yes.
forward focused.
It is forward. I do touch a little bit on the childhood issues
Right.
to see what's going on, and then I think I shared with you one time. I do the life purpose system, which requires the numerology. I say numerology, but it's not. It's a system that I work well with. But go ahead, this is so amazing the way you help people.
Yeah,
You really do help people.
I can, depending on the situation, I can reduce my rates.
Yes.
I've had a few people where,
Yes.
it's just, I give back.
Yes.
Because I really do want to help.
And the way, when I spoke to you and prior to coming to the set, you have a very good heart and your priority is service first.
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
and that matters a lot. And I think
Absolutely.
people pick
Thank
that energy up
Thank
from you. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So you do a lot of good things for people,
I
and I like the idea that you could also make them reunite again.
Oh,
Not that you make them, but you will make those pointers, as you said before, mirroring and all that.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot
did
of
you have
tools.
any experience in that?
Personally, I did not.
You did not.
Just my own
okay.
training. But I
Okay.
think I've been blessed with a genetic makeup where I was able to do this for myself going
Yes.
through divorce. I don't
Yes.
know how I did it,
Yes.
but I did, and I always kept a positive attitude, and I was
Yes.
the one that initiated my divorce. So it doesn't even make a difference if you're slammed with this blown away
Yes.
information or you initiate it. It's still very traumatic. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat well. It's a trauma.
It
You're
is.
dealing with your kids who you know in certain situations you're doing the right thing because children only know what they see in the home. So that's another thing
For
I tell
sure.
people, if you want to go through and stay married, you have to be calm in the home. You can't torture your children with screaming matches.
They
with
have to
throwing
grow
things.
up. Some people that are married need to grow up.
Oh, yeah.
Because they could be old, but they still they're not mature.
Right.
They don't grow up.
Well, the question is,
That's why these things happen too, I think.
do
I
you
don't
love
know.
your children?
Oh.
Why did you have your children? Like
Yes.
what I do,
For sure,
when,
yes.
oh my, of course. When I mediated, the first thing I did was tell both parties to bring pictures of the children. And I would
Oh,
put it
what a
on the
wonderful
table.
idea. Oh, my
and
God.
that's what I would bring into focus whenever the fighting. We work on another thing. I work on the co-parenting agreements with them. I work on the assets, the splitting of the assets. And again, as a mediator, I test drive things people are looking for, or once they get an agreement, I test drive it. In other words, don't be a bully, but don't be bullied. Don't throw in the towel. I mean, I've had clients, all of a sudden, they're being tough, they're not changing their stance on an issue, and then
Yes.
all of a sudden, give everything away. Why? Because they have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Well, I can't advise
that's what
them,
happens a
but
lot.
I ask them the right questions that they don't want to hear.
So
And
that
I-
emotional intelligence you inject into them.
Yeah, I try very hard.
Yes,
And I'll keep
definitely.
going. I'm not afraid to ask a direct question. And when they are saying one thing and then saying something else, I have to redirect them back to the fact that they are all over the place. What is it exactly that you're looking for? You're saying this.
Because
but
they're
you're doing
angry. They're an automatic pile,
so
right?
we have to break it out for
You
them.
you
yeah.
break it out. That's a tough job, though.
It-
I would say that.
Well, you do it as a life coach.
It's true. It's
But-
true. But this is even more intense. I believe. I
Very-
don't know. I'm not.
It's very intense.
Yeah,
it's very
it is
emotional.
intense. It's about the two of them breaking up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the children, and everybody's angry. Even if they're emotionally good, a lot of people are good emotionally. They have that emotional intelligence. But when this happens, as you mentioned before, the trauma that sets in, the anger that sets in, the crying, the not eating well, could catapult you in a different direction.
Right.
You're not yourself.
Not at
I mean,
all.
when you experienced it, Did you feel you were not yourself?
Oh, I was
Like,
not myself.
Right. Yeah.
No.
You just
I mean,
mentioned
everything
before.
triggers everything.
Everything,
Triggers all
sure.
over the place.
Triggers everywhere.
And if you have to go to work, I have to say that there's a lot of employers who should actually have divorce coaches on staff, because the amount of time you're at work, not working, and the employer is paying you for not working, so to speak, because
true, it's
your
true.
attorney calls, you're being
Yes.
served with documents,
Yeah.
you've got to handle this right
lot of
away,
work.
this is due tomorrow, you have to answer this email, the list of items goes on and on.
You would think a lot of people would not divorce because of that.
I know,
It's
but
too
there-
much work, right?
But there's a better life. If you
There
are
is a better
truly
life.
miserable,
Okay.
or if you can't keep a calmness in the home for the sake of the children, you have to realize that this will go on in the
For-
next generation
yeah.
to your children.
But some people will not decide anyway.
They
There's-
don't.
There's a lot of people that die just
Miserable.
Miserable.
But see, in this
Yeah.
day and age, women, as of 50 years ago, came into the men's world.
Yeah.
We started working. The problem is, as women, we have now taken on the role of man and women. Women used to come to marriages because they needed stability, financial security.
Security,
Security,
sure, sure.
stability. We don't need men for that anymore. So that's where all this is coming in. And unfortunately, where we've come a long way, now you have the men who are raised at the time they're 3, 4, and 5 to be taught, stop crying, man up. You got to be a man.
Yeah.
Now you bring that into a marriage where now a woman doesn't need the financial security. She takes care of it herself. That's where it ends. Like now the men have to get a little more vulnerable for the sake of a
A
relationship.
little more vulnerable. But I think there's also, I got that. You explained it very well. There's a lot of things that I come up with my life coaching. A lot of people have fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
And they will go through anything just as long as the man in their life stays
I
for their
know.
children, for them. And the fear of abandonment really gets you stuck in that place of hell, I
Yeah.
would say, right?
Definitely.
So a lot of women are also physically abused,
Oh, yeah.
emotionally abused, a lot of narcissistic abuse.
Yeah.
And a lot of women that I come across with, they don't recognize the narcissistic abuse.
Oh, I know that.
They don't recognize it.
I know.
You know, so they're saying, okay, so he's not physical with me,
Right.
so I'm going to stay, you know, and then, you know, everything else takes place, like, you know, the financial, whatever you just recounted, you know, you made me aware too, just this moment, how you have it all set up like a package.
Yes.
You really know what you're, you love your work.
I love my work.
Yes, because you're making people happier. You're
I
bringing
want
them to the
be
next
happy.
level.
And their children become happier.
Their children.
When I had to go to Albany for the domestic violence training,
Yes.
okay, I sat there. And at this point, I'm married about 17, 18 years. And I sat there. They have a wheel of violence. You can find that online too. And but of course, 20 years ago, we didn't have that online.
Sure.
I was watching, and as they started talking about the wheel of violence, first starts with the isolation and so on and so
Yes.
forth, tears started rolling down my face.
Isolation, the lady isolates or the man?
The man, well, if it's typically it's the female that's being even emotionally abused.
More isolated.
He starts, it's very insidious and slow. He
Yeah.
isolates her.
Oh, yeah.
Then he starts to make her feel like she's not capable of being on her own. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
tears started rolling down my face. I was like, I don't even know when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little kid, they used to call me bossy. Now I'm like, that's what I mean.
Who am I?
You
What happened to
don't
me?
need- and that's why I understand where
you-
these women are coming from.
you lose yourself.
How to come back to who you are.
Yes.
And that's part of the training in the brain and how to
Yes.
say things, but in a kind way. Get the emotion out, even though you feel so emotional about
Yes,
it. And you
yes.
finally think, now I'm going to speak up.
So you train them also to become, because they're now in the box.
Oh, yes.
I would say that.
Yes.
Right? In the box. And they're looking like this and they're like, this is not for me. This is not for me. How can I survive? The abandonment, the fear, the narcissistic abuse. You know, these women need a lot of help. Or men,
Right.
some men too, wouldn't you say?
I have men.
You
I
have men that
absolutely
are
have
going
men
through
clients.
this. They have I think that they have traumas too.
They absolutely do have
There are
traumas.
men, well, I'm going to say also this, sexual abuse brings this on too.
Yes.
You know, that's why some coupleship doesn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're awakened to it, it's even worse, I think, till they heal. But some people, they're like in a box. I'm going
They
to say that for
certainly
lack
are.
of a better word.
They certainly are. And they feel
Yeah.
safe there because
They feel safe
feel
there.
so
Mhm.
safe there
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the unknown. Like I tell my clients, they're afraid. They use the word fear a lot.
Yeah.
And I say to them, do you know what fear stands for? F-E-A-R. False. Oh God, I'm forgetting it right
False
now.
prophecy, not
Appearing
being-
real.
appearing
First,
real,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, you gotta like get this. Like,
Yeah.
it's not real.
It's not real,
Not.
yeah.
It's just what you've put in your head.
Yes.
You can do this, and we take the baby step. It's real baby steps.
So you think that that false belief is programmed in you somehow?
It depends what your parents told
Yes,
you when you were
yes,
little.
yes.
And then if it keeps going, because you usually pick a spouse where there's unfinished business with a parent for some
Oh, my
reason.
God, yes.
These are millions of topics we could go on and on about because it's true. So
So, for anybody that is watching, for the audiences out there, you would like to have Jackie Atchison information, please put it up at the screen. Thank you. And you could also say your information.
Thank you. Thank you. My website is betterpathtodivorce.com. And my motto is just really, the book has been written, but you can write the next chapter. And you really
Oh,
can.
wow, I like that. You could write the next
You can.
chapter.
And that's what I want to help everybody do.
Yes, yes. So, so I guess we're going to put that up later, your info.
Thank you.
And I like that very much. Your next chapter is going to. How did you feel when you went to your next chapter? Maybe something that you could share
Oh, my God.
with the audiences.
First of all, I started planning my own getting out of the marriage way back in 1997, and I got out in 99, where I was doing mediation, which is good for the heart and soul, but it's not good for the pocketbook, unfortunately,
Yes.
especially in the 90s. Nobody heard about it. And I
Yes.
was doing advocacy work. So long story short, I said I have to earn money. So I went onto Wall Street, started earning money. I knew from my ex-husband, as the story went on, that he was going to be a deadbeat dad, because that's who he was. So I'd be supporting my kids. And so I started planning it. I started looking for the job. I needed health benefits. I started socking away money.
But for you, it was heaven. Another page opened up to the book that was heaven.
It was too difficult. And then watching my girls bring home men like their father, that was it for me. That was the knife in the heart.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jackie.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you
for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you, the viewers, for joining us. Next, we will have a great show for you and your families to enjoy. So until then, goodbye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I figure which way to go? Saw the light, took the path of least